everyone. I'm Angela Macias from the College of Education, and I'm just going to go through really quick a simple process I use in my classes to incorporate ChatGPT. I think the biggest concern most of us have as faculty is trying to get our students to use it responsibly as a tool and not as just something that can do their work for them, right? And so I'm just going to walk you through the process that I use in my class. And I've been kind of experimenting with this the last few years, so it's still not perfect, but it's evolving every semester. So first, in my class, we're doing this right now in my one of my GE classes I'm teaching. It's child and adolescent development. So it's a lot of first and second year students, all different majors, not necessarily just liberal studies people. So it's all different groups of folks from all different colleges and majors. And some of them have varying interest in child development. Some of them really want to be teachers or counselors. Some of them are just kind of there because it fits in their schedule and they needed that GE, right? And so that's fine. But given that, there's a wide range of interest and dedication to the content. We want to make sure everybody can get on board and still use the tools responsibly regardless of their personal interests and hopefully pique their interest as we go. So we're doing a research project in that class. It's a very light research project. It's a 200 level class. It's not real intense. But first we want to start, we just identify a topic. And I'm keeping this very general for your sake so that if you can go back to your own college or your own department, you can think about how to apply this in your content area. So we identify a topic, we introduce a model and model basic reading in that content area. And I know this sounds silly. I come from a K-12 background before this, but you have to teach students how to read like a whatever you are, right? How do they read like a scientist? How do they read like an engineer? How do they read like a philosopher? How do they read like one of those experts? Because we all read differently. We don't all read the same way in our content areas, right? So what that means is, I'm not going to read this to you. Obviously, this is just a screenshot of an article. But what I do in my class is put one on the screen and I do a metacognitive walkthrough, right? And I'll show them, hey, let's pretend we're going to use this article. What do we see here? This is not the kind of reading you sit by the pool with an iced tea on a Saturday and just enjoy your time, right? I'm not taking this to the beach and sitting on a towel and reading this article. Oh, maybe some of you do. I don't. I'm probably reading a novel or something like that, right? So it's a very different kind of reading. And so when you have students that might be new to your content area, you have to show them exactly how, which means I'm going to point out what an abstract even is, right? What is that? It's like a preview to a movie, right? It tells you everything in there. Look at these headings. What do you think that one's telling us? And I ask these questions and kind of walk through it without actually reading it to them, but just showing them, look at what I'm noticing. Oh, I see this table of information. I really don't understand that yet. That's where maybe I'll use AI to help me understand. If I don't understand how that data is being presented, I can ask some questions later. But I am still going to go back and read this through. I'm just going to walk through it with them and show them, what are we looking for here? And point out, when I'm reading this article, I'm going to use ChatGPT and upload it and then ask it specific questions as I'm reading. So if I don't understand something the author says here, I ask, what does the author mean by blank, right? And I model those kinds of questions so that they see, oh, okay, yeah, it can read it for me, but I also need to read it and I need to use it as a tool while I'm reading, right? So the next step in our class and our projects that we're doing is we do this assignment that I call article reviews, and it's really simple, but I model and practice this in class with them as well. We go through all of our lovely, amazing resources that the librarians have put up, which is, if you all haven't explored that, extensive. They do so much work. Thank you, Wayma, for that. But they do so much work over there to create guides and videos and helpful tools. So I let them work on that and explore, and then I give them this simple table to fill out. And I don't see any of my students in here, which is good because a lot of times I remove that middle section that gives them choices. I make them do it themselves if I've already lectured on that. But I ask them just these simple questions. So they have to take an article and they have to look for these things, right? I have to actually model how to use this in class. And I know that seems kind of like, well, it's already there. They know how to access. They don't all know how to access, right? They don't all know. We can tell them over and over again. The librarians are there, go get help. Sometimes you just have to show them, right? So I pull it up in class, show them how to do some searching, put some search words in there. Once we pick, then I'm gonna still show them how to take that article and put it into ChatGPT. And as I read, I'm gonna keep asking it questions, right? I'm gonna still read the article, but I'm gonna show them how to find things in there I don't understand and ask it questions, right? So then students are gathering their own articles now. So if I have 30 students in my class, theoretically, there's 30 different articles that have been pulled from the database at this point. They're doing their own little assignments with it. They're submitting them. My job now, this is where it gets a little bit tedious. I have to go now download all those articles myself because we're going to use them together. Okay, so I'm going to then take their articles, assume that they've done their article review and check that, and then I'm going to upload them into a specific chat that I create myself in GPT, right? So the process here is that you're going to want to go into the editor and you create a teacher's assistant in ChatGPT. And I model how I can even use that in class with them to better understand the text. But I'm going to take now all that stuff. Sorry, I'm jumping a little ahead here. Let me go back here. I'm taking their articles and I'm going to start downloading them so that I can upload them into this teaching assistant that I'm going to develop. Okay. I'm modeling how to use it. The next step that I go through here is adding in some personal components. We're using AI all the time to ask questions and better understand what we're reading. But if students are doing a project that can't be designed through AI, meaning they have to go interview a real person, they have to sit in front of a real person and observe something, they have to go have an experience. Now, the AI can't make that. Not well, right? So, yeah, they could take all the time to fake it, but by that time they could have just done the assignment. So we're kind of intentionally making it more inconvenient to cheat than to just do it, right? So in my class, I see a couple of people in here who were so gracious to actually visit my class the other day and do this. Thanks to both of you over there. I see you. We had a few people I just kind of went around and wrangled and brought them into my class. And I said, these are the guests. You're going to interview them about their childhood. And so they sat there and asked them questions. They took notes. And then they take that real life, real person experience. And then they're now going to start combining all these things. So they've got articles they found through our database. They've got a real life person and experiences that they've gathered from doing that firsthand research with a person or an experience, whatever it might be. And then they're going to get into a group and collaborate, right? This is a long process, but this is how I go about it. They draft those questions themselves. And even though we're using AI all the time, we are also using Post-it notes and actual real journals. I love that everybody at my table here was writing on actual notebooks, right? And so that shows how valuable that really is. And I'll be honest, this did not go over well the first week of class when I passed these out. And I order them in bulk on Amazon and I bring them to class. Here's your journal for the class. And they look at me like, am I in elementary school? What is this? I'm not doing that. They have their laptop in front of them like, So I have to convince them. But once they get used to it, this really becomes a lovely contrast between us having ChatGPT on the board asking it questions and then going back saying, open your journal. What did you write last week about that text we read? You took notes, right? You wrote something down. So every day in class, I'm asking them prompts, I'm giving them questions, and I'm saying, write this in your journal today. And it evolves. Sometimes I plan it ahead. Sometimes it's just, well, this guy said something really cool. Let's talk about that in our journal today. And we're taking notes, and now they're really into it. Now they've got doodles on the cover. They've got little pictures. They have all kinds of stuff in there. And I make sure they know that I'm not grading that based on your writing ability. There's no grammar check. There's nothing like that happening. That journal is something I'm going to look at regularly just to see that you're engaged. And you're going to get some points for showing up and to write in it. And now I've removed that fear of writing. You can see that's part of my long-term goal here, right? I want them to start writing on their own, but I don't want them to run straight to the ChatGPT to have them write something for them. So I want them to have more in their journal now than they even have on their laptop by the time we get to that point where we're going to use the tool a lot. So we pull that out all the time and we're looking at it, we're writing notes, we're asking questions, we're responding. And now we get to that point where I'm going to share with them the GPT I created just for our class. Okay, so I go in, you have to go into the editor, and I'll show you a little screenshot of that. So you create your own new chat that's just for your class, and you can actually set up parameters, right? So you can go in that editor and tell it, I'm making a special chat here that I want just to use in my class. This is what my class is about. My students are studying XYZ. When we use this, we don't want to give them answers. We don't want to write anything for them. We're not going to, and I give it parameters of what we will and won't do. What I do want you to do, ChatGPT, is tell us this. Help us sort through all these sources and find answers to questions. Help us synthesize the information in 90 different articles that we have uploaded now, right? So now that we've done that, we create this chat, we're gonna share it, we're gonna go through it. They're still gonna finish the whole project with some kind of authentic assessment that is personalized, right? Something that's not just write this for me. They've interviewed people, so they have these long responses and notes, and then they can go and take those questions that they want to ask about this person they interviewed and the articles they read and ask ChatGPT, hey, I interviewed Esteban the other day, and he told me this happened to him when he was a kid. I also read this in an article. Check those other articles and tell me what these experts would say about what happened to this kid. And now they're going to have a very nuanced question they're asking. They're not just saying summarize this, right? And they're asking what the experts of these articles, these authors would say about that experience this person had. So now they're going to take that information and they're synthesizing it together with the help of AI and doing something more authentic with it, like creating a presentation together or a podcast or a whatever, right? A video, something like that. So here's what I've found so far, is I've done this a few times now. The positives, you can customize it, like I said, to match what you're doing in your class. You can give it rules. You can tell it what we do and don't do in this class. We can have it focus only on the text we upload. So I also uploaded an ebook that we use a lot in our class as our textbook. And I say reference that when you need to. I can tell it exactly what to use because I don't want it to go searching online and just find whatever, right? Because then it's going to probably it might give us some strange things. It might be not relevant to my class. So I want to keep it focused on just the text that we put in there. And I can give it that. The negatives I've found, at least, and maybe there's a work around this, but I haven't figured it out. You do have to go into the editor to create that teaching assistant, and that's fine. But you have to keep going back into the editor if you want to change stuff, right? So you want to do that. I also can't invite students to be in the same GPT to ask questions themselves at the same time. I wish I could do that where we could live ask it questions together, but I think that doesn't work on our type of account. I have done it with my personal account because I upgraded that, and I've tried that too, which does work. But that's just I didn't want to share that as like a recommendation because we want to use what we've got available, right? So I've been so far just putting it up on the screen and having them write questions on a Post-it the old-fashioned way. I take them and I put them in, or I say, hey, you come on up here, put your question in. And we'll just keep doing that in class, and we'll keep asking it questions, and it's going to pull from all those articles that I uploaded. And now they're getting access to, they might have read 3 articles themselves. Maybe their group members each read 3 articles. So what's that, 9, 12 articles? Now they're getting access to what's in 90 articles because all of them uploaded 3 or 4, right? So now we have this kind of vast access to information, which is the wonderful tool that we have in front of us, which we can use. It doesn't replace the reading of the text because they've still read 3 in detail when they did their assignments. They still had to be inquisitive. They still had to ask questions. They still had to talk with each other. So we have to balance those 2 things together. But I tell them when I was in grad school, if this existed, wow, I would have been saving so much time, right? Because many of you went through this. In school, you get halfway through an article and then realize this is not relevant. I can't use this. And I just spent 30 minutes on it, right? So now next, okay? So I'm saving a lot of that time now, and that's a wonderful thing. So I'm showing them this in class. We're modeling everything, and we're doing, like I said, a lot of discussion, a lot of handwritten things to counterbalance it. And then this is where you would, if you've not explored using the editor, you have to go to it through this link, right? You have to actually go into the /editor mode. You can't just go into ChatGPT to make your teaching assistant, okay? So this is just an example of me giving it parameters, right? For future students' questions in this conversation, this is what it said back to me. I'll treat this as a course article pool and ground answers in them when relevant. When students ask about a topic, I can help by. So it's telling me that it knows what I want it to do, right? And so it's responding back to me after I've given it directions. And that's it. I'll pause for a minute and see if anybody has questions. Sorry, I talk really fast. I drink a lot of coffee, so I know that's... Yeah, go ahead.
Firstly, thank you for sharing that, Angela. Are you now populating your next round of GPT, your GPT with the output that the students have created? Are there presentations now being sort of like a giant Turnitin in a sense? Are you using their work product as part of the next round of GPT, just like you're feeding in these articles?
I haven't been carrying it over from one class. Sorry, I'll get in front of the mic. I haven't been carrying it over from one class and section to the next semester. That would be interesting to do, but I haven't done that. I've just been starting fresh every semester because I kind of like the idea that we have a new outcome every time. So it isn't really easy to, it's a little harder on the planning, right? Because I don't know what we're going to get out of this necessarily, which is, I think, the fun part. But I'm not going to be able to just kind of use my old presentations by the end of the class because now they've put in all their articles they found and their questions are different. And so it's more of an inquiry-focused type of learning where the outcome will be different with every group of students every semester. But I can still vet the articles before they go in, right? And there's a few that I've kind of like said, okay, this isn't quite right. We're not going to use this one, or this is not a research article. This is whatever. And so I can go through them myself and kind of eliminate before we upload them. And that keeps it a little more focused and a little more intentional. But yeah, it is going to be different every time. So I haven't done like a cumulative over time adding, if that's what you meant. Yeah. Other questions? All right. Thank you.